Good morning and welcome to the Daily Signal. I'm your host, Remo, and it's Friday, June 13th, 2025. Today, we're diving into stories that remind us just how interconnected and unpredictable our world can be. We'll start with breaking news from the Middle East, where Israel has conducted airstrikes in Iran, escalating regional tensions at a critical moment. Then, we'll explore a remarkable story of survival from India, where a lone passenger's survival of a deadly Air India crash has captured global attention and sparked fascinating discussions about the psychology and science behind being a sole survivor. These stories today highlight both the fragility and resilience of human life, from geopolitical conflicts that affect millions to individual stories of survival against impossible odds. We'll break down what these developments mean for you, wherever you are in the world, and why they matter for the bigger picture. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's make sense of what's happening in our world today. Let's start with our top story this morning. Israel has conducted airstrikes in Iran, according to reports from Axios, marking a significant escalation in Middle Eastern tensions. Now, before we dive into the details, let's step back and understand why this matters. Any direct military action between Israel and Iran represents a major shift in regional dynamics. These aren't neighboring countries having a border dispute. We're talking about two major powers in one of the world's most volatile regions. According to the reports, the strikes targeted specific locations within Iran, though the exact nature of the targets and the scale of the operation are still being confirmed. What we do know is that this represents a rare instance of Israel conducting overt military operations on Iranian soil. Now, you might be wondering, why is this happening now? The timing is crucial. This action comes amid ongoing tensions over Iran's nuclear program, regional proxy conflicts, and what Israeli officials have described as Iranian threats to Israeli security. For months, there's been a complex chess game playing out across the Middle East, with both countries supporting different factions in various conflicts. Here's what this means for the rest of us. When major powers in the Middle East engage in direct military action, it often leads to broader regional instability. Oil markets are already showing signs of nervousness, which could affect fuel prices globally. More importantly, escalation in this region has historically drawn in other world powers, potentially affecting international trade, security, and diplomatic relations. The international community is watching this closely. Early reactions from the United States, European Union, and neighboring countries suggest deep concern about escalation. The question everyone's asking is whether this is a limited, targeted operation or the beginning of something larger. What makes this particularly significant is that both Israel and Iran have been relatively careful to avoid direct confrontation, preferring to engage through proxy forces and cyber warfare. This shift to direct military action suggests that previous deterrence mechanisms may be breaking down. For our global audience, this is a story to watch closely. The ripple effects of Middle Eastern conflicts often extend far beyond the region, affecting everything from international shipping routes to global energy markets to refugee movements. We'll continue monitoring this developing situation and bring you updates as more information becomes available. Now let's turn to a very different but equally compelling story from India. A lone passenger has survived a deadly Air India crash, and their remarkable survival has sparked global interest in the phenomenon of sole survivors in aviation disasters. Let me start with what we know about the incident. The Air India crash resulted in multiple fatalities, with only one person surviving what appears to have been a catastrophic accident. While details about the crash itself are still emerging, the focus has shifted to something equally fascinating: the psychological and statistical phenomenon of being a sole survivor. Now, you might think sole survivors are incredibly rare, but they're actually more common than you'd expect. Aviation experts and psychologists have documented dozens of cases where one person survives a crash that kills everyone else aboard. What makes these cases so intriguing isn't just the incredible odds, it's what they tell us about human resilience, the physics of crashes, and sometimes pure chance. According to the Associated Press reporting, This latest case has reignited scientific interest in understanding how and why some people survive when others don't. Researchers look at factors like seat position, age, physical condition, and even psychological factors that might contribute to survival. Here's what's particularly fascinating. Sole survivors often face unique psychological challenges. Some experience what's called survivor's guilt, a deep psychological burden of questioning why they lived when others didn't. Others become advocates for aviation safety or dedicate their lives to helping other trauma survivors. The scientific community is also interested in these cases because they provide crucial data for improving aircraft safety. Every survival story offers insights into which parts of aircraft offer the best protection, how emergency systems perform under extreme conditions, and what factors might increase survivability in crashes. From a human perspective, these stories remind us of both our fragility and our incredible capacity for survival. The human body and spirit can sometimes endure circumstances that seem impossible. For the aviation industry, each sole survivor case becomes a learning opportunity. Engineers study the wreckage to understand why one area of the aircraft provided protection while others didn't. This data has contributed to improvements in seat design, cabin layout, and emergency procedures that have saved countless lives. The identity of the sole survivor in this Air India crash hasn't been released, and they're likely receiving both medical care and psychological support. Recovery from such trauma is a long process, but history shows us that many sole survivors go on to lead meaningful lives, often with a unique perspective on life's preciousness. This story connects to broader themes about resilience, chance, and how we process tragic events. It reminds us that behind every statistic is a human story of survival, loss, and the remarkable capacity of the human spirit to endure. And that brings us to the end of today's Daily Signal. From the geopolitical tensions playing out between Israel and Iran to the remarkable story of human survival against impossible odds, today's news reminds us that our world is full of both conflict and resilience. These stories, while very different, both highlight the unpredictability of our times and the importance of staying informed about events that shape our shared future. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Remo, and I'll be back Monday morning with more stories that matter to you. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and take care of each other.